Hey everyone, and welcome to RUBIN'S Mind Lab, where we break down the latest research into what it really means. Ever wonder why you can't stop checking your phone, or why you feel so much better when you have a plan? Well, this new study is all about that feeling of control and what makes us feel like we're steering our own ship. Scientists have been trying to figure out what exactly that feeling of control is for a long time. It is super important for our happiness and how we make decisions. But there wasn't a clear, simple way to measure it or understand it. This new research proposes that we feel in control when we're ready to handle whatever comes next. They came up with a way to measure this preparedness, looking at how many options we have, how sure we are about the outcomes. And if we can even achieve what we want, it's pretty neat, because it seems to bring together a lot of different ideas about control. Think about planning your weekend. You might have a few things in mind, like going to a movie or visiting a friend. But what if the weather is bad, or what if your friend cancels? Suddenly, that feeling of control over your weekend can change, right? The researchers started with this idea that our sense of control shapes how we decide things, how we learn, and even how we feel. They noticed that in science and even in computer programs, people have different ways of measuring control. Some look at how many different places an agent can get to. Others look at how predictable those places are. But there wasn't one single idea that explained both what it means to actually be in control of something and what it feels like to be in control. So these researchers wanted to create a unified idea. They proposed that feeling in control means being prepared for future tasks, even if you don't know exactly what those tasks will be. Imagine you are deciding where to live. City A lets you do anything you want anytime. City B has fewer options, but they're always there. City C has some options, but sometimes a surprise event happens, like a concert, instead of a play. How much control do you feel in each city? This is where their big idea comes in. They created a new measure called Emp-ell, or EMP. Think of it as measuring how ready you are. It looks at three things: the range of actions you have, how certain you are about the results of those actions, and if achieving your desired outcomes is even possible. The cool part is that by changing one little number, this M measure can actually represent different ways of thinking about control. If you focus on certainty, it is like one setting. If you focus on possibility, it is another. And if you are just looking at how many different things you can do, that is another setting too. It is like a dial that lets you tune into different aspects of control. To test this, they ran experiments. In the first one, people played a game where they had to collect gold coins in different virtual rooms. The rooms had different layouts and different rules about how easily you could get to the gold. After playing, participants had to choose which rooms they preferred for collecting gold, even when they weren't playing themselves. And guess what? Their new measure, AMP, did a really good job predicting which rooms people liked. What was most interesting is that people seemed to be different. Some people really liked rooms where they were certain to get the gold, even if it meant fewer options. Others preferred rooms where there was a possibility of getting gold through more actions, even if it wasn't guaranteed. This showed that the M measure could capture these individual differences in what people valued more: certainty or possibility. They then wondered if this preference for certainty versus possibility changed if the task was about avoiding bad things instead of getting good things. So, they ran another experiment where participants had to avoid bombs. They found that people still had preferences for certainty or possibility, and these preferences were pretty similar whether they were collecting gold or avoiding bombs. This suggested it wasn't just about liking rewards, but about a deeper preference for how predictable or flexible their environment felt. In their third experiment, they didn't even make people play a game. They just asked them directly, in which room do you feel more in control? And again, their M measure was a really good predictor of what people said. It seems like this idea of being prepared for future tasks really matches how we actually feel when we judge our own sense of control. They also looked into why people might prefer certainty or possibility. They checked personality surveys, like how much people like to be in control of their lives in general, or how much they dislike uncertainty. Interestingly, they didn't find a strong link between these personality traits and the certainty possibility preferences they saw in the experiment. This suggests that these preferences might come from something else. Maybe how our brains are wired, or how we process information differently. So, what does all this mean for us? This research gives us a really powerful new way to think about that feeling of control. It is not just about having options, or about being totally sure about what will happen. It is about that feeling of preparedness for whatever might come next. And it highlights that we all have our own unique leanings, some of us valuing a predictable path, others a more flexible one. And our M measure seems to capture this beautifully. This is exciting because it gives us a framework to understand why some people thrive in uncertain situations, while others prefer routine. It can help us understand things like learned helplessness, where people feel a lack of control, and even how to design better AI that understands agency. Of course, no study is perfect. They mentioned that in their experiments, people knew exactly how the environment worked. In real life, we often have to learn and guess. Also, they didn't look at how things like regret might change our sense of control over time. Future research could explore how we learn about our control and how that feeling changes when things don't go as planned. This research is a big step towards a unified science of control, connecting how we humans experience control with how we might build more intelligent machines. It helps us understand the balance between having choices and feeling secure, between certainty and possibility. Thanks for joining us on RUBIN'S Mind Lab. If you found this interesting, please give this video a thumbs up, leave a comment with your thoughts on control. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss our next dive into the amazing world of the mind. See you next time.